An Unexpected Future by A Series on AO3. Episode 16, Chapter 16. Video chat with Heropedia featuring Kami Tsuyu. Oh, wow, I really can see you, Five said, staring at Tsuyu's image on his phone. That's how video calls work, kiddo. Tsuyu propped her phone up against something and stepped back. Did you not have them back in your time? We had video recordings and security cameras, but two-way like this? Five admitted, attempting to prop his own phone up against a book on his desk in his room, but it immediately slid flat. He tried again, placing an eraser in front of the phone this time, and it stuck. Glad I could show you how it's done then. The background of her call was noisy, and she pulled out several items of her refrigerator and took down a cutting board. Thanks for letting me cook while we talk. I need to make dinner for everyone. That's no easy feat, Five said, recalling his own misadventures in the kitchen. I'm used to it. She began to cut the vegetables, though Five could hear it more than he could see it from the angle the camera was at. So, you wanted to know something about the Hero Society? Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the deal was with the hero rankings. Five admitted, pulling his chair out and tapping his finger against his thighs. Like, who decides that stuff? What kind of power do those ranked heroes have compared to other heroes? What are your current top heroes, and what are they like? I was trying to look things up on my own, but everything's in Japanese? So you guessed. Everything's in Japanese. Five confirmed with a sigh. I can give you the basics, but I don't know much about that stuff. Tsuyu admitted. You live with a teacher, right? Why don't you ask them? Five grimaced. Originally, he was legitimately going to use this weekend to see if he could figure out a way to get an upper hand on the so-called number 2 hero Endeavor, but after managing to look up a fight on his hero tube and followed the related videos through dozens of other fights, Five had to face the grim reality that Todoroki was right. Even with Five's element of surprise, it'd be extremely unlikely that he'd be able to do a killing blow on Endeavor without risking his own life in the process. Endeavor was too bulky, with reflexes too quick, and a hair trigger control of his quirk, and so many cameras and eyes on the man. It would make getting away with it impossible without inside help. So, he'd need to figure out how to get him out of power with consequences for his actions, just like Todoroki had wanted, which would need a softer, more roundabout method to attack. Even if it wasn't murder, Five was still pretty sure neither Yamada or Aizawa would condone him trying to take down the second most powerful hero on a whim, so he only wanted to go to them as a last resort. Not to mention, it was still pretty hard for him to trust adults with anything important regardless. Uh, he's off doing his radio show. It technically wasn't a lie. After taking a week off, Yamada had to head to the station to both check in on how everything was running and do an extra long show to make up for his extended absence for his listeners. Aizawa's injuries were getting better every day thanks to the school nurse's quirk, and between Aizawa and Five, Yamada decided he could trust that the apartment would be intact by the time he got home. And besides, I don't want to bother him with something like this. You're staying with Present Mike then, kiddo? Sue asked, moving the camera to a new angle as she pulled out a pan. Yes, Five said, still deliberately leaving out Aizawa. It's okay if you don't have any information for me, just point me to the right direction or give me terms to look up for, it would be a big help. To be honest, Midoriya would be a better fit, Tsuyu admitted. He's like an encyclopedia when it comes to hero-related information. Huh, interesting. I could see if he'd like to hop on a call. I'd appreciate it, Five said. He's kinda jumpy, isn't he? Even though he's strong. He has anxiety, kiddo. The camera angle shifted again as she picked up her phone, showing her pixelated face as she stared in concentration at the screen. After she typed something out, a couple of whooshed noises came from a phone carried through the speaker. He says he's available. I'll call him. The screen split in half, Sue being squashed onto the left side, leaving Midoriya to appear on the right. Oh, I didn't realize this was a group call, Midoriya said, smiling awkwardly and glancing between their faces as he set his phone on the desk. Half of a poster of All Might was visible behind him. Hi, Asu. Hi, Hargreaves. Call me Tsuyu, she insisted. Hi, Tsuyu, Midoriya repeated, his face turning visibly red over the grainy video feed. So, what's up? And, do you mind if I do some reps while we're talking? Go ahead, I'll be cooking anyways too, Tsuyu said, returning to her task. I wanted to know more about the hero ranking system, Five said, launching into it. Who runs it? How do they determine the positions? What are the benefits to being ranked highly? Things like that. Oh. Midoriya looked taken aback as he lifted, frankly, huge hand weights with no issue. I could certainly talk about that stuff, but, why? Everyone's all number one this, number two that. Anyone would get curious. Five pushed. I don't think it could hurt anything, Midoriya, Sue said. Besides, he's gonna find out sooner or later if he stays here any length of time. Right. Thankfully, Midoriya seemed morphed by Tsuyu's reasoning. Well, the hero ranking system is based on a mixture of various factors, including the hero's popularity, number of resolved cases, and the level of social contribution, which is a combination of things like the number of people saved, cost of property damage caused by the hero, and things like charity events and other things deemed to be good for public. The exact formula of the Hero Safety Commission used to determine the ranking isn't public, and neither is all the data they use. But there are several newer companies that have branches dedicated to following hero news and compiling data and writing down their own formulas so they can predict who will be where on the board when the yearly Hero Billboard chart JP comes around. Some fams do the exact same thing, compiling public available information, and sometimes the results are more accurate than the professionals. Fans like you, Midoriya? Sue teased. It's a group effort, Midoriya said, looking away from the camera as he switched hands. Five nodded along, taking a few notes as Midoriya went. It all sounded par for the course of bureaucracy so far. I'm guessing the higher ranks get more money and influence? Basically, Midoriya agreed. What's Aizawa's ranking? Five asked, looking for a point of comparison. Midoriya gave an awkward laugh. Trick question. Mr. Aizawa is actually an underground hero, so he isn't part of the ranking system at all. Most of the rest of the UA staff are ranked heroes, though. Present Mike consistently stays in the top 20s, even though he doesn't patrol very often because his radio show is popular, and he runs a lot of charity events. Plus, when he's called to the battlefield, he's a hard hitter and gets things done. But he has to make sure to do a lot of that stuff out of the fact that he doesn't patrol as often because resolved incidents are weighed higher than all the other categories. That's why a less popular hero like Endeavor are still in the number 2 spot, even though Hawks and Best Genius have higher approving ranks. Five's frown deepened. So even if his popularity would take a sharp turn, it might not matter so long he gets the job done. Well, it would be a factor, but as long as he's continued to capture villains and save people in disasters, yes. Five tapped his pen against his notebook irritably. There went yet another avenue for taking him down. Who's in charge of the Hero Whatever Commission? He asked instead. I don't know any names offhand, but the main board of the Hero Public Safety Commission is on their website, Midoriya said. They're not heroes or anything, They're just government agencies that act as a liberation between heroes and the general public. So they set things like the rules and regulations that hero have to follow, as well as the amount of government aid goes to the hero agencies. So they're basically the bosses of all the heroes. Five summarized. Indirectly, maybe. Midoriya shrugged. Heroes also get money from sponsorships and advertisements. Sue added. So it's not just government paying for things, Ribbit. This was all pretty complicated, but Five was starting to see the shape of it. So, if a hero's popularity went down, it might not affect their ranking, but it will affect their wallet through losing sponsorship deals. If they're lowered ranked, yeah, Midoriya agreed. The top 10, less so, but they'll probably still feel a loss, especially through lower ranked heroes that work at their agencies. Five grunted, practically. Was this guy untouchable? Time for a new tactic. What about Nedzu? Is he on those hero rankings? That's actually pretty interesting, Midoriya said, lighting up and forgetting about his weights for a moment. He's absolutely is a registered hero, but he is a nebulous spot between overt and underground heroes. He was rescued from a lab who had been running experiments on him, and with his high specs quirk, he challenged everyone's preconception of what it means to be counted as a person, and went to professionalize the definition of personhood and who deserves rights in Japan. He also sparked similar contributions around the world. After everything he went through, it would have been understandable if he were to hate humans, but he decided that helping humans would be better for the planet in the long run. He disappeared for a few years, and people speculated he'd been working on some highly classified cases, and then he reappeared out of nowhere as a new principal of UA. He said that he believes in helping to shape the future of Japan through the up and coming heroes, and he wants to make sure that those in power are in places for the right reasons and not to abuse their position. How reassuring, Five said dryly, thinking of all the better future talk his father likes to spew. Though that did confirm things that Five already knew about Nedzu and made him wonder. So, how much influence does Nedzu actually have? That depends on what you mean by influence, Midoriya said. I mean, he has a lot of influence amongst UA students and alumni. He certainly has his political enemies, but he knows how to negotiate and get things he wants. It's half the reason that Nedzu has all the funds and permissions that he does. He's very persistent and persuasive. So his students like him. Five pushed. You believe that he would stand up for his students if their safety was on the line? Even if it was just one student? I'd say he's already doing that, Ribbit, Sue said, ducking back into frame. I mean, he had to respond to the USJ incident after all, with all the new security measures. Though his decision to keep the sports festival is on a controversial one, Midoriya argued. Personally, it's a dream to be able to participate in one of UA's sports festival, and I'm glad for the opportunity to show my stuff to agencies for an internship. Still, I know my mom wasn't happy with the decision, and you saw how split everyone was when Mr. Aizawa was announcing Nezu's decision. Yeah, that was surprising, Tsuyu admitted. Personally, I think we should have at least postponed it, but I can see where he's coming from in terms of giving a show of strength. So then, Five tapped his pencil against his chin as he tried to pull both arguments together. You'd say that Nedzu would fight for his students, but only to a point where he'd seen it as adventurous? Midoriya grimaced. I don't know if I'd put it like that. It's more like he knows that people are watching what UA is doing. He's not afraid to rock the boat, but he also knows he has to play the long game if he's going to make all the changes that he wants to. Which made sense, Five supposed. Nedzu, as an ally, was just a hunch based on what little information of Nezu's past Five managed to gather from Yamada and Nedzu himself. If Five brought Todoroki's case to Nedzu, would he side with Todoroki, or would he let Endeavor keep the status quo in order to further a larger agenda? Was there a way to rig this so that Nedzu would be forced to take Todoroki's side? Thank you, Five said, nodding to Midoriya. You've been very helpful. How do you know all this? I'm a bit of a hero nerd, Midoriya admitted, rubbing the back of his head. I look up stuff like this for fun. Five hummed. Interesting. Have you ever heard of the Umbrella Academy? Panic entered Midoriya's eyes. Oh, what? No, definitely not. I hear my mom calling me. Gotta go. His side of the screen went black, and Sue's phone took up the missing space again. Five raised an eyebrow. That sounded like he knew something to me. Maybe, but you shouldn't be asking about your family anyways, Sue pointed out. What would you do, then? Five asked, propping his head on his hand. If you were stranded in the future without your friends or siblings or parents. Sue's hand stilled for a moment, staring somewhere far above the camera, slow angle. I don't know, she admitted quietly. That sounds pretty scary. If I was in the future as far as you are, it'd be tempting to look up what happened to my family. Maybe I had some relatives that I could find and rely on, but more than that, I think I'd be afraid of learning something that I can't know when I go back. Like when they die, or if they grew up to hate me. I think maybe if I stayed there a long time, I'd eventually look. But if I was still planning on going back, I'd try to wait as long as possible. Five hummed. Even if it meant you could change it when you got back? Could I? Tsuyu looked down at Five. Do you know that? I'd say we'd have to believe that, Five said, gripping his pencil tightly. Otherwise, what's the point? Tsuyu hummed, turning off her stove. To have a good meal? The answer caught Five off guard, and he barked out a laugh. Oh yeah? Tsuyu nodded. Having a warm meal with people you care about. That's one of the things I want to protect, Ribbit. A warm meal. Huh. Five leaned back in his chair, thinking back to the stilted diners filled with German Soviets playing through the air, with his siblings all covered doing something else while they ate. Then he thought of the rice and stew that he made with Yamada, and how comfortable he and Aizawa were despite the man's injuries. It felt satisfying in a way that meals usually weren't. I guess I could get behind that. Okay, wow. Wow. So first things first, I want to talk about Izuku being an absolute nerd. Let's just say, in Izuku's parts, I kind of just let myself go loose, and normally I have to pace myself when I'm reading because I could talk really fast sometimes. Like, you could tell, sometimes I just start talking at fucking full speed, and sometimes I slow down and I talk like a normal person, like I'm talking right now, although this would still be a little bit more sped up. So a normal person would actually talk like this. This is how a normal person talks. And now this is how I want to talk. I want to talk super fast. I want to talk in a higher pitch because I'm talking super fast. And I just want to get everything out there immediately. I try to pace myself because a lot of the times when I talk like this, I tend to make my list even fucking worse because I'm not thinking about pronunciation. I'm thinking about getting everything out there, you know? And as I'm speaking and getting everything out there, you could tell that I'm having a lot of more lisps. I'm cutting some edges and some words. Some words are not being pronounced completely. Things are being sped up. I'm missing certain points. Whatever. Point taken is I tend trying not to talk like that. I tend to try to talk like this. I sometimes do lose track of myself and start talking faster, and I feel like Midoriya is one of those types of people who try to calm themselves down and talk like a normal person, and talk like this. But then they start to lose themselves and start talking like how they want to, which is like this, speaking like a bunch of words, no pauses in between, being a fucking robot. I don't know what this is fucking called, going off a train wreck, I don't know, fucking train wreck, whatever it's called. But definitely Izuku, although Izuku definitely knows something about the Umbrella Academy. What he knows, we don't know. Unfortunately, it's not something we're privy to, but he knows something. And I want to know what that something is. Also, interesting take on Nedzu. Interesting. I want to see what Five does. What is he gonna do to help Todoroki? He clearly realizes that assassinating Endeavor is not going to help. So, can't wait for the next episode. And it's so sad that we're getting close to the end. It is really sad that we're getting close to the end. Really. The next chapter is called So, I Have This Problem. Interesting. So, is he gonna tell somebody? Probably either Aizawa or Yamada. My guess is leaning towards Yamada, considering that he seems to have a connection with Yamada. So is he gonna tell Yamada about the Todoroki situation? I wonder. Interesting. So chapter 17 is next chapter. We're getting really close to the end. It is so upsetting. I'm probably gonna finish recording this in I don't know when, but it's getting close to the end, and I'm sad. This was such a good, thing. I'm upset. I'm sad. You're sad. I'm sad. We're sad. We're both sad. Sad. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.